Hello, I'm Zineb Sbaï El Idrissi. I'm 24 years old, and I have done my studies in Kenitra and Rabat. For now, I am in the doctoral cycle in Kenitra, and I am part of the team of the Cube Independant Art Room. I'm interested mostly in cultural and sociological kind of questions and issues, because I know it is something that is fluid. The human condition is not something that can be fixed at any time or in any kind of society. It's always in movement. There are always the lifestyles, the ethics, the ideologies, they are always to negotiate, to improve. Sometimes there are conflicts that happen, and it is very interesting for me to study like a specific society, a specific kind of context, and learn more about it so that it can be improved sometimes, because in cases of conflict and injustices, there are more to do about that. And of course, as you can see, I'm a woman, I'm a young person, I'm Muslim, so there are many criteria that can be attributed to me, but they are part of my identity, but they don't really limit me, because most of all, I'm a spiritual person, and I see that every being has the right to live a decent life, to live a happy life, be fully respected, and there is also like to kind of have our feet on earth, like we say. So it is also very important to be aware that power and forces are a condition of the physical realm, of the physical condition. It's even that contact between forces that makes our buildings stand, that makes our relationships, like there is this dependency of one object onto another. So you can't really have like an equality of power in every time, an equality of two equal forces equate zero. So it's not this power, this force, it's always it's a constant of the physical realm. When it becomes bad, and it's when it makes the suffering of others, is when there is an excess of power, and some people are suffering so it becomes unjust, and then we can really do something about it rather than just tolerate it. It becomes injustice, it becomes intolerance, it becomes inacceptance, and it becomes misery for some people. And so that's why feminism is something it's a movement I subscribe to, but without also again being limited to it, because for me, feminism is part of all those movements that look forward to find an injustice rather than just promote or focus on a specific, even gender, to say like it's a woman thing. It's really about the men, women, transgender, gay. It's a whole thing of justice. So for me, it is very, very important. It was a very sensible. It has done a lot for Morocco, and I can see that because there has been a lot of change since I've been a little girl. Because I can only speak of what I have witnessed as a person. I don't believe that I can speak for others, for situations I don't really know. So I'm gonna really speak about those themes with which I'm really familiar. So what I'm saying is that it has done a lot for Morocco, and there was a great change that I have witnessed, even if there is a lot to do, there is a lot more to do, and I believe that there will always be more to do in any time, any context will have its own struggle, deficiencies and stuff to negotiate and improve. So for me, I have been also, like, can we say, a wounded female? Most of a wounded female than a wounded woman, because I have been protected and everything, but I have grown up in a context where I have inherited some ideologies that were to define me, but with which I had a lot of conflict, like internal conflict with them. And for now it has changed, because I took the time when I have done my studies in the university. I've learned skills, I've learned techniques to how to deconstruct a discourse, to detect ideologies, and thusly to really detach oneself from those ideologies. And I learned that, well, these things that were really pressuring me and making me go into some kind of confusion and conflict, they were not really true. Unless you accept them, they are not true, because truth can be very relative. Either you agree to it or not. And so I learned after that to heal. So I can say that I have done like 80% of my healing, and I think that's very important for all women, because when you heal, you don't feel always like you don't maintain the position of being a victim. Like for now, I don't feel like I'm a victim. Either I'm a woman and I'm religious and everything. I hear stereotypes. I see things that are not very true. So, but I do reject them, I don't accept them, but I don't feel like offended by them, like it's you and they are not personal for me. I'm beyond that, so I don't really ascribe to these things. And I think women should do that, because when we're always in this position of being a victim, I'm always a victim and I behave like a victim, I put myself more in a weak position, which can be sometimes I don't know, not really. Nobody wants to be a victim, and nobody wants to define itself being a victim and live in bad conditions internally and psychologically. So so I'm gonna talk a little bit about those ideologies, and well, I have first of all, the first ideology that was pressuring me so much, and that looked to me so unjust. There was always this idea that a woman does not have desires like a man. I'm speaking about sexual desires. So a woman is either having, a little amount of desires. She's not like a man, but a man has a strong desire. It's unheard of. It's too much for him, and But a woman is it's a little bit. If you have desires, you're kind of abnormal. So that's what you kind of deduce when you hear such things. When you hear that, no, it's the man who desires the woman. No, it's only the man who finds the woman attractive and seductive. And so you're not supposed to be in that part of that as well. And this has built many injustices, I would say, inequalities, depending on if you agree with the whole concept in the beginning or not. Like, for example, there is this idea that because in my environment, the context, it was like a religious Muslim and the Moroccan tradition. So in the Muslim Moroccan tradition, you don't have intimate relationships outside marriage, outside the structure of marriage. That's prohibited. In Islam, that's one of the biggest sins, and so in the society as well, like in the tradition, it's prohibited. But here, the injustice, for me, it's fine. It's fine. I don't really want to have relationships outside of the structure of marriage. But what's unjust, and it's like for a woman to do that once, she's really she's doomed, like, and she's really judged severely by other men who, on the other hand, have relationships outside of marriage. It is possible for them to do that. It's perfectly normal, because they are men, because their desire is, hard to control, so they can't just wait until that time where they can afford getting married. So it's perfectly normal. He's a man and everything. But if you were a woman and you do that, you're doomed for. And at that time, mostly it was really very prohibited and very. There were even fathers and who would severely punish their daughters for not being a virgin until she gets married. But if he has a son, on the other hand, it's fine. He can do whatever. And again, there is also this thing that like, men can wear whatever they want, because a woman is not supposed to have like those desires like a man does. So he can wear whatever he wants. He can do his hair in any fashion he wants. Nobody to judge him, nobody to talk about it or make a fuss about it. They can walk in the streets coming from the beach topless with just shorts, and that's perfectly normal. But if it's a woman and she's doing her hair nicely, or she's wearing tight pants or something, that's, on the other hand, very, very bad. For I'm speaking just for the people who subscribe to these kind of that's basically the context where I grew up, and then it becomes like a double standard. That is, and what's most outrageous about this double standard is that it comes in this disguised in religious kind of like, it takes the shape of a religious discourse. Like, you say, no, it's prohibited in Islam, no, God is not good with this. But actually, when you do, because in the beginnings I used to watch but like, when you want to learn more about your religion, you kind of go watch what they say about it, those people who are supposedly knowledgeable about it, and they keep giving you stuff that will regulate your life. And after that, when I had my studies in the university, there was this, even when you're an academic person, you kind of go back to the source, and you take the source and you mention the source, and you say, here is the source. You don't just take information that's just out there and just ingest it. So what happened is that I started more to say, no, hold on. You're telling me this, hold on, but I want the source. And I started going to the source, like mostly to the Quran. For me, it's like the reference more than anything else, because that's like the manual coming from God, and the other things are what Muhammad and his companions have lived. So I mostly go to the Quran to understand these things, and I found out that yes, in the Quran they say no to relationships outside of marriage structure. Yes, they do that, but it's the same for women and men. You don't make a distinction. You don't say no, you're a man, it's fine. No, you're a woman, it's not. It's like one ideology, but there is equality in it. It's not like one ideology and there is a double standard here and double standard there. And this idea, I was very relieved with this idea of the desire that is just one ideology, that man has more desires, then he is allowed to do this, he is allowed to do that, he is allowed to do that. But a woman, on the other hand, it's a no. She's not, because she doesn't feel like he does. So when you read the surah of Joseph, there is the verses that narrates that the wife of the Pharaoh, she desired Joseph. She even went to him and told him, "Come and sleep with me, like have a relationship with me. I want it now." And it was him who's supposedly to have the utmost desire who said, "I'm sorry, I can't do that. You're a married woman and we're not married. There is no relationship that can make it, you know." So here you see this, it's like the balance is reversed. It's the woman is desiring the man. She is going to him. She's making advances, and the man is saying, "No, I have some principles that do not allow me to do this." So, like, you are disguising it in Islam, but in Islam it says that both have desires. It's not okay. If it's not okay, it's not okay for both. It's not that it's not okay for one gender and the other can have it. Same, for me, it doesn't take to be like a very knowledgeable person when you read the verses for polygamy. Like, it's there, like, because polygamy is a very controversial thing for now. Many women do not want polygamy, especially that it is just specific to men. It's not for women. It's just for men. So I went there and read the verse. It's basically a whole chunk, and it's in a context in what it says. Because first of all, when I used to ask again about this, well, there were two reasons. The first one is that the man has the big desire, so he needs more than one wife. One wife cannot make him satisfied, fully satisfied. So God understands that, so he allows him to have 4 wives, but not a woman. A woman can't have 4 men. She doesn't have enough desire for that. And the second one is that at the time, but they don't say at the time, they say in general, men are those who work and women stay at home, and so a man can sustain more than one woman and can be a financial source to more than one woman. So that's why a woman cannot marry many men. She is not going to sustain them financially. So that's why. And I went back to the verses, and I read it, and then it was very clear. Like, for me, it was crystal clear. And if you read like with the adjectives, everything, first of all, it's within a context. First, God is saying, take care of the orphans. Do not be unjust to them. You have to sustain them. The orphans, no, there is the orphan. And if you are afraid not to be just to the orphans, to sustain them well, then you can, there is an if, there is then you can marry 2, 3, or 4 wives. And basically what I see in this is that there was a condition, there was a context where this came. He was really addressing a situation where in that specific society where indeed women did not have work. Indeed there were some men who went to battle and died and left a woman with her children, and what is she gonna do? She doesn't have a job, she doesn't have anything, she has many mouths to feed, and as a solution, it was possible for a man to take more than one woman, so that you're not just a stranger who tries to give to sustain the children, the orphans from afar, but you are part of it. You know their routines, you are married to their woman, you know their condition better, and you kind of try to sustain them. And there is this if, and there is this condition, but that's not what we see. Most of the time there is a man who's just bored with his wife, and he likes another younger, good-looking woman, so he kind of says, oh, I'm gonna marry this one. God says it's okay to have 4 wives, so I'll just ignore the other one and marry this one, and that's my right, so you can't really say much about it. Which takes me to another idea that I would like to elaborate, which is religion and Islam. In it there is what is spiritual, what is social. Sometimes they do come together, but I think we can take things that are spiritual, that are more of a individual nature, like prayers, like fasting, those practices where you try to connect to your source, try to connect to God and become a better person, and giving money to those who don't have, being good to your parents. Like, these things are general. These things can be seen spiritual because they kind of make you a more caring person, a more gentle person. And there are the laws that came of Sharia, like what we say, because so many wanted the Sharia to be applied nowadays. But what I see is that the society changes a lot. Societies change, and maybe what's a law that is okay to and beneficial in France wouldn't be a law that is beneficial in Belgium, because they are 2 different contexts. There are every context is specific. There are many components that we should take into consideration. So for me, it's not possible to just take something and apply it there when it's very irrelevant for the and we have this problem even, for example, in many parts in our lives. Like, for example, in education, we would take like a theory, or not a theory, like a whole procedure, a solution that was found in France, for example, and we would take the whole procedure and apply it in the Moroccan context, when the Moroccan context has nothing to do with the Moroccan education has its deficiencies, its problems, its advantages, its which are completely different from those of France. It's just unbelievable that you take something and you don't, at least you personalize it, at least you make it adapt. There is an idea that is beneficial, okay, let's see if it is here, and if we have to make some modification and make it more flexible so that we can benefit from it, not just take something and apply it in another context. And that's what they're doing basically, which is like it has been 1,400 years at least that these laws came, and I don't know, you can just take that and try to work with it in all societies of the world, where we have the capitalist system now, we have technologies, we have it's a whole different world that we're living in. So there has to be some flexibility. You can't just now take these things and apply them. Like for example, I would talk about inheritance, for example. That is like in Morocco, in the constitution of Morocco, we don't work with the Sharia. The laws are not from the Sharia. But when it comes to inheritance, oh no, there it's sacred, there it's Sharia. So, like we understand that in the context of Muhammad, peace be upon him, women at the beginning, they didn't even inherit anything. They didn't have any property. They were a property. So there is already a development to give a woman half of what the man gets. And second, most of them, not to say all of them, because there were some women who were merchants and who were working, but most of them did not. And so let's give them a little and give the men more, so that the man will marry her, and he will be the one will marry a woman. He will be the one to sustain her financially. So he's entitled to have more. In that specific context, it was like the best solution that could be fit for the context. But here now, before there were our grandmothers and everything, they did not work, and they were home and everything. Like in Islam, whatever the man, a woman doesn't have to pay a dime. It's always the man who takes her in charge. So okay, but now we have women who work, we have men who work, and now if you come together in a relationship, you both give you put your money to maintain the dynamic of the couple or whatever. So why would we keep it that way? At least let's make it more personalized. If you have two people working together, why would you give the man more than the woman? Or you see, and even for example, so that's for inheritance, and but there are also other things that for now they become more unjust for the man. Like for example, a woman, the principle that a woman shouldn't pay a dime, because now if she works, why would she keep the whole money for her, and the man has to do all the thing by himself and sustain the whole family, the whole couple on himself? So that doesn't work like that anymore. So there are many changes, like for the mahr, the money that you give to a woman before you marry her, you give it to her for herself. So it's like a present to sustain more of her financial state. Before, yes, the woman did not work. So yeah, you can give her some money for her, like a gift, something that she can use for herself and be happy with it. But for now, she works and you work, and maybe she has a better job and gets more finances than you do. Why would you have to give her money? That's unjust for you. So these changes, they have to be taken into consideration so that we have a more just kind of thing. And also even personalized, we don't have to have like one law that is big and for everyone. Maybe experiences change, contexts change. So yeah, it's a hard thing to do, but we can work it on. That's why we're always negotiating. We're always trying to find things to do about it. Alors, I've already kind of addressed that question, and basically it's I'm speaking about the Moroccan context, because that's the one, not the whole Moroccan context, because it's very diverse now. It's surprising and how diverse it has become, and how tolerant, I should say. I was mostly speaking from past experience, like years ago, and also like in Rabat, kind of the vicinity of Rabat and those places, because I haven't been, I haven't lived elsewhere, so I can only speak about this context, about also about the middle social class, because I have not lived in a poor kind of class, but not a rich one. But I can see that those ideologies I've talked about, they are more rooted in the lowest class, a little bit in the middle class, and almost irrelevant to the highest class. Very few people who are rich are still in that kind of context, and it's really changing. For now, it's really changing. Like I said, there were militant people who have addressed these questions, who have spoken about it. We have had those thematics treated addressed in television and in programs. And we have also, for now, we have globalization, which is bringing other perspectives, other ideologies, and adding to the whole. And most of us are it's an unconscious process. Like you are constructed unconsciously. You can, I think it's true, you can kind of make what's unconscious conscious, but the repetition, when the environment it changes, yes, you are affected. Either you like it or not, you are affected, you are reconstructed, and that's how it works. So I think that's how life works, how our subconscious works. Our subconscious does not have a logic. Our subconscious works by repetition. If you keep repeating one thing for yourself, even if you're not really you don't really believe in it at the beginning, it ends up being part of your subconscious, and it comes to you whenever it shows. So yeah, that's it for the second question. I actually speak to everybody. I know that what I am speaking about is very specific to one little context, one set of ideas and all, but what I'm saying, I address it to everyone, because everybody, in my opinion, can admit that we can't have just one feminism, we can't have just one justice in the world. you can't speak for everybody. You can't say this is how it is for everyone. It changes. So I speak for myself and for people who have like similar experiences, but I say it to everyone so that everyone can see we're not like each other. We're not what works for you and you want. Sometimes it happens even with members of your family, friends. You're like, hey, this is not good for you. Maybe you have to do this so that you have a better life. Give that up. I know better what should work for you. And you end up frustrating them, and you end up you are very honest about it. You are very good in your intentions. You want to help them. You want to see them happy, but they have free will. They have to think things for themselves and see if it's fit for them, and they have to make a choice. That's what it is about. You have to make a choice, to be able to make a choice, and not because after all, even if you have good intentions, like parents or whatever, they would tell their children, do not go for these studies. Leave that. It's not gonna help you in the future. You're not gonna be successful. Do this instead. They are trying to be good to their children. They love them, but at the same time, they become dictators because they dictate what you have to do, and that doesn't resonate with you. So you shouldn't just take it. And yeah, everybody should speak for themselves and should express things from their perspectives, and others should make the effort to understand, to also speak for themselves, and then negotiate things and make things a bit fluid. That's why I have adopted the postmodern philosophy, which says that there isn't a truth down there and everybody should, it's the truth, so it's the ultimate thing to do, it's the ultimate thing to believe, otherwise you're so wrong in everything. Because first of all, logically to me it seems that everything gets filtered through you, through what you have learned, through what you're experiencing. So there are limits. You are limited, and you can't get access to anything, and everything is just perceived from a different perspective. Like if you are, for example, a dog, do you think you'll see that the sky is blue, or that you'll see everything in green and blue? And do you think your smell, you can smell like a human being? Your smell is too powerful. Your hearing is more powerful than a human being. So everything that we think is out there is actually filtered through your senses, through your perspective, through everything. So we can just say there is according to me, we can just say that there is a truth that we should all abide by. And I also address I speak also to other Muslims like me, because when you are actually Muslim or a woman or whatever the category is, it doesn't mean that you are this one and the same. Like, it can be a woman and there is another woman, but our definition of a woman is extremely different. And yes, we have the Muslims who are from ISIS. They are Muslims. We say they are not, but they are. They are taking sources from the Quran as well, and kind of, adapting it to their own view of the world. And so they are as well, and I am too, and other people who do not look like me can be Muslim as well. So what I say is that let's work things together. Let's come up with there will be conflicts. There will be conflicts. Like even maybe a friend would sit here who is defined like I am defined, Muslim woman from Rabat, from the same social class, and she would say, no, I don't agree with you. The inheritance, for example, should stay as it is in the Quran and everything. So, but let's at least dig deeper in the debate without getting violent, without really, we can be peaceful, we can sort things out peacefully. There are going to be conflicts, and here is when I think it's important to mention one thing. It's Eckhart Tolle that says this, and he says when the ego subscribes to an idea, when you take an idea or an ideology or even basically an identity, and you take possession of it, and it becomes you at a certain point. There is no difference between you and the idea. Here, whatever you can say, which is even not personal, can offend me, and I can become violent towards you, just because you're contradicting the idea that I think subconsciously this idea is me, this idea is part of me, so you are hurting me. Like, you take the idea, you know you subscribe to it, but it remains an idea, you remain something else, and that's an idea, you operate with it, it's not who you are. So we can discuss ideas without offending each other, without without hurting each other and saying obscene things about each other and accusing each other. So, like, even when I say that, for example, women were victims to this patriarchal kind of thinking, patriarchal in the negative sense, because there is the positive sense of patriarchal, like there is a negative sense to many things. So when I know that I am not angry towards men. I'm not angry towards men because what it is to be a man, like, you are a person, you are defined to be a man, but I'm not angry at you. Maybe I'm angry at the ideas that came that kind of hurt me before, but I'm not angry at you. I'm not angry at men. I don't see them as, some people that I should fight and yes, I do feel indignated sometimes, and I do get outraged when I hear things that are just unjust. Either they are about women, either they are about men, either they are about animals. It's the same for me. This is unjust, and I am angry at the injustice. But to hate a whole category and become, like a soldier and use my violence to, I don't really subscribe to that and accept that as a person. So yes, and I know that every individual have their own experience, have their own kind of things they struggle with. Sometimes they are personal, sometimes there are things that you do and you don't like to do them, and you do them anyways, and you have this conflict within yourself, but you don't hate yourself for it. And the same thing, I think when you're a man, you're a person, you're struggling, you have your own struggles, and this kind of ideologies come also with a cost for men. Like, you can't just be a man and and go get married without having a job or without having money, or, well, you can, but when you grow up with these kind of, and you know the society is expecting things, even it may not expect, the people may not expect, but in your mind, the society is expecting one thing, and if I don't abide by it, I am not successful, I am worthless, I have to find my way to, I can't just sit at home jobless and my woman is, my wife is working outside and making money while he feels worthless. Sincerely, men feel worthless when they, because they are supposed to be the providers, they are supposed to be strong and like you can, a woman, if she cannot, for example, defend herself physically, she doesn't feel like she is worthless, or it's for others to defend her. Like I'm speaking from, I'm always referring to that kind of construct. I'm always in the same, I'm not saying this is what it is, I'm saying in this kind of construct, a woman doesn't feel like she has to be strong and beat others, and if she fails to be strong physically, then she is worthless or she is less. For a man, it's different. He has always to show like he's strong, like he is capable of protecting, of providing, and that's pressure for men as well. Like it has to be negotiated even in this way, and I believe if you are more of a postmodern, you subscribe to postmodern fundamental ideas like there is no truth and all is just suggestions, that we make artifacts that we elaborate, then you can feel less tension. You say, okay, you say that men have to be strong, but like physically, but I'm okay how I am. I can't, at a certain point, there is always somebody who can be more physically more stronger than you are. So yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with I am the way I am. I accept myself the way I am. I accept that life is like that. Sometimes I will have a job, sometimes I will not, sometimes I will have money, sometimes I will not. It doesn't say something about me. I am not my job, I am not my money, I am not my physical appearance. These are things of life that we live, maybe struggles that we go through, but yeah, it doesn't have to weigh on me psychologically. It doesn't have to really define my experience. I can live my experience the way I choose for myself, for it to be. And seriously, nobody will come to you and knock your house and tell you, you're a man, you're sitting there, you have to be working, get out and work. Nobody will do that. It's just in your mind. So yeah, I think this fundamentalism kind of stuff is convulsed for now, and once people have choices, are more free in their experiences, yeah, they will have we will have at least less psychological pressure on us, and then other things that are in the constitution, legal things, these we can work on and negotiate. There is always activism out there, and there are always people who are, as I said, the force, this ce rapport de force. There is somebody out there who is stronger. I mean, like. He has it's an association, there are many people there, it's a structure, so it can lift you when you are down, when you are going through a struggle, when you are mistreated. So yeah, you can use power to empower the powerless as well. So that's gonna be, I think that's the condition of humans, the condition of life. It's just the way it works, at least for now. I'm in a certain context with certain privileges and certain limitations as well. So one of my privileges is that I have acquired the knowledge, and thanks to my days in the university and all those professors who have really contributed into upgrading our thinking and everything. So for now I have this knowledge, and that's the most precious thing I have now and I can make use of now. And so I do researches, so I can, with this knowledge, I can research, learn better. Sometimes it's not even research, and sometimes it comes like this, like you see something and it's like it has already been analyzed, and you get something automatically, and you see something in you detect the thing without really engaging a whole process of an analysis. And this is very important because for now I can do it individually with my surroundings, with the people who surround me. I can speak to them about, like, I can at least we can reflect together or in a group about something and share ideas and everything, and the more perspectives you share, the more the richer you are. Like, even for these people who didn't have the chance to learn these big questions, to learn these kind of tools to deconstruct and see implicit things. So you kind of bring, you kind of ask questions, you kind of, and it clicks in their minds, and so at least that shakes things, that influences, and they influence you back. So I'm basically speaking about family, about friends, so these the closest people. And then I am also in the context of arts, and the art is really, first it reflects what the artist has in mind, his wishes, his struggles and everything, but the artist is also belongs to a society. It has a whole system, of interconnected ideas and everything. So he reflects something that he has learned and where he grew up and everything. But art is also a way to construct new, reflect and renew, because you sensibilize. I think before art was about the skills, like you paint something that is breathtaking, and then you are the best of the artists, and you get the job in churches and big places and everything. But for now, the artist is somebody who is able to reflect, to make explicit what is implicit, to kind of raise questions, and that's how actually we can negotiate things. Like, we can defamiliarize with what we take for granted. So art is also a good tool. And although I'm not an artist, I am in the field, like here with Le Cube. I get to meet people like you, I get to meet foreigners as well, and I get to, because I see that there aren't many, I wouldn't say that wearing a veil kind of says you're a Muslim and you're put in a category of like very kind of committed Muslim and everything, because what is very committed Muslim and what is not. That's very so. But there are stereotypes and there are things that what you present with your body and everything. They give them they give people an idea of who you are. And but when, like for example, with my veil and there aren't many. I don't really see many women in the art field with a veil, so I can be like for this participating in this project, I get to speak about things from a certain perspective that is of a veiled woman, kind of. You see what I mean? Like it's not just like I'm adding some kind of diversity for now to the thing. Everybody adds a diversity, but you see like of a discourse, introducing also a discourse, some ideas, and that's, I think, is pretty interesting. And also meeting other people. Like I don't get to meet like many gay people, but now I do. And at the beginning, it's when you have never, or at least have never been aware that a person is gay, and you have a whole kind of things told about a gay person, and you have learned about a gay person. The first encounter of a gay person like is something like the first encounter of something very new, and you kind of learn how this, like, you have the concept, but then you have the person, and that's completely different. Like, I can tell you a whole thing about, for example, maybe for being Muslim, maybe if I had a niqab on, maybe you had they told you women who have a niqab or women who have a veil, they are oppressed and they are very retarded in their, we hear such things. But the first encounter with a woman with a niqab or a veil is a whole new experience. It's something, you are not in the concept, you are meeting the person, and unless you learn to know them, you judge, and when you judge you put a barrier, and when you put a barrier you become, I don't know, very constrained, maybe violent. But yeah, it's this contact with diversity, knowing people, knowing that these are just labels, but a person is who they are and how they grew up, and they can be the sweetest person I ever met, and they can be maybe also not as sweet as you think, or so. Yeah, you get to meet the person rather than the concept, and you learn how to make this distinction between a concept and a person,